reported earlier, a growing number of Major League Baseball players are speaking out against the Los Angeles Dodgers over the team's decision to honor a transgender group that mocks Catholics. But what exactly can the players say and do in protest if they have a contract with the team? And are their conscious rights protected? Joining us now to talk about this and more is Andrea Picciotti-Bayer, EWTN News legal analyst and director of the Conscious Project. Andrea, great to be with you as always. A lot to get to, but first, let's talk about the Dodgers and the players speaking out against the team's invitation to this transgender group, the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. If a player is under contract, which I would venture to say probably all of them are, could they face legal repercussions if they voice their opinion or protest in any way, such as sitting out a game?
Tracy, first, thank you so much for having me on. And that's a great question. As far as the nature of each individual player's contract, looking at them, looking at the terms, what they're allowed to do, what sponsorships they have, what they say against the program is going to be on a case-by-case basis. But I do think it's very important that we see and applaud these courageous athletes for standing up, not only for their own beliefs, but for the dignity of the game. This is America's favorite pastime, and the drag queens are not only offensive to Catholics, but it's not an appropriate kind of a group to hold out in what should be a family-friendly environment.
Yeah, and Andrea also talked to us about conscious rights, and can that play into all of this, even if a player or someone else has a work contract?
Normally when we think about religious freedom or conscience rights, we think about the government and what restrictions are on the government. Typically, when we're dealing with employers and employees, there can be issues of wrongful termination for voicing one's beliefs. We did see when players in Major League Baseball or in football were standing up for concerns that they had about racial discrimination, and there wasn't any repercussions for doing that. But I do think that there's a more powerful weapon in addition to speaking one's voice if you have a perch, and that's for the American people as consumers or as people visiting and watching sport being played to say, we do not want to be a part of this, and walking away. I also wanted just to share, in thinking of today is the anniversary of the Sisters of Life. I would love for New York, either the Yankees or the Mets, to invite the sisters in celebration of their anniversary and their contributions so that we really do have a proper understanding of what religious orders offer to our society and that they can be held up in high regard instead of being mocked.
Absolutely. I want to pivot now to the Supreme Court, which is winding down before summer recess. What are some of the decisions that you're waiting for there?
We've spoken before, Tracy, about this. One of the most important is 303 Creative, and that's involving a wedding website designer out of Colorado, Lori Smith, who does not want to create anything other than wedding websites for traditional marriages between a man and a woman, and that's grounded in her Christian belief on traditional marriage. She's asking the Supreme Court to rule that the First Amendment protects her right to be able to use her expressive talents consistent with her beliefs. It's a really important case because it shows the intersection between free expression and faith. And that's something that's coming up again and again in our court systems, especially as anti-discrimination laws are being stretched beyond to include things like sexual orientation and gender identity. And for many people of faith, especially for Christians and Catholics, we have to live our lives coherently in not only what we believe, but in how we live.
Andrea, do you have any sense maybe how the court will rule in this case?
I never want to get predictions, but having listened to oral argument, it does seem that the justices are concerned about the government forcing Ms. Smith to use her talents against her beliefs. It's consistent with a long tradition that we have against government-compelled speech. So I think that Ms. Smith will be the victor, and it's very important that state and federal governments take note of this and don't force Americans to act or speak against their beliefs.
Andrea, so great to have you on and get your insights as always. Really appreciate it. God bless you.
Thank you, Tracy.